minutes, so I'll try and zero in on my process and then also just the gist of my argument. So the title of my thesis is Beyond Bars, Positioning Black Women in Prison Discourse. So when deciding to write an honors thesis in CGS, I knew I wanted to write about Black women in prisons. I wasn't quite sure what I wanted to say, but I knew what I wanted to get out of it. Throughout my time in various organizing spaces, I have seen how Black women have been conceptualized in relationship to prison systems. Black women are thought of as the mother, sister, daughter, or spouse of incarcerated Black men. We see on our campus the low numbers of Black male students and automatically begin talking about the prison system. It was hard for me to decide to position Black women into prison discourse because I didn't want my words misinterpreted. I didn't want my intentions misconstrued as a bashing of Black men or using feminist rhetoric to ignore Black male experiences, or for people, especially my own community, to assume I was not aware of the Black male incarceration demographic. However, as Audre Lorde states, I have come to believe over and over again that what is most important to me must be spoken, made verbal and shared, even at the risk of having it bruised or misunderstood. Realizing this, I began to write. The central argument of my thesis is that the overwhelming emphasis on prison spaces within prison discourse ignores the most multifaceted experiences of systemic and structural violence experienced by Black bodies, especially Black women. Through readings and rereadings, I began to conceptualize prison as condition, not location. Focusing on prison spaces speaks to a particular story. Historically, penitentiaries have housed men. Penitentiary were places where white male deviants were sent to be rehabilitated. For white women, psychiatric facilities were used to prevent the spreading of feeble-mindedness, promiscuity, all other misvirtues associated with rehabilitation of white womanhood. However, the psych ward was not conceived of as a punishment institution. With the eradication of chattel slavery, we have seen in modern times the expansion of the prison industrial complex where people of color are disproportionately warehoused. Prisons are no longer designed to rehabilitate. However, punishment is still thought of in its public manifestation. Prison spaces are assumed to be the ultimate space of captivity or recaptivity for Black bodies in particular. However, this emphasis leaves out the invisible or invisibled ways in which Black women experience and are experienced. To make the argument that prison is a condition and the overwhelming focus on prison spaces and prison discourse ignores the particularities of Black women's experiences with captivity and violence, required for me to first hone in on what constitutes imprisonment in the dominant psyche, which is the part one of my thesis. If you want to read it, you can. Next, I then critiqued prison and prison abolitionist texts and organizations, focusing on the false association between public and private, emphasis on traditional definitions of punishment, and the usage of Black male experiences as universal, or exclusionary if Black men are negatively perceived to be over or underrepresented depending on the space. We, as Black women, are incoherent or unacknowledgeable in prison space discourse because penitentiaries are reflections of a spectacular public realm of punishment. Black women are also held captive in a public arena. We are the fastest growing prison population, experience invasions of privacy in the welfare system, etc., but our racialized and gendered identities obscure the experiences of non-legible unpunishment or deserved punishment. It is important to engage and interrogate how we label, define, and defend harm and struggle within our community. In this thesis in particular, I didn't want to attempt to include Black women by laundry listing out societal abuses that get ignored. I wanted to conceptually think about how our ways of labeling exclude an acknowledgement of particular experiences, abuses, restrictions, etc. as such. Public, private sphere discourse is not applicable to Black women's experiences, and therefore this positions us outside traditional prison imaginations. Attempting to position us into prison discourse by simply highlighting our growing presence in prison spaces continues to limit our need to expand the meaning and means of dismantling penal systems. I knew focusing on this prison manifestation of violence would not displace the overarching logics that reproduce Black captivity in and outside of every societal institution. It is because, as Frank Wilderson states, for Black people, civil society itself, rather than its abuses or shortcomings, is the state of emergency. Therefore, reformist interventions or abolitionary interventions of publicized institutions will only result in relocation. The logics remain intact. Also, I wanted to, which is my third part, I wanted to especially highlight the characterization of harm and community intervention in Black female decision-making. challenging the mischaracterization of Black women's choices as detrimental to Black potential progress. And ending here because I felt like I was running out of time when I wrote it. A well-known Black feminist refrain that I end on in my last part, taken from a famous quote by Anna Julia Cooper, "Where and where I entered," is used and reconfigured within my project as I attempt to interrogate when and where and how we as Black women are entered. How those, not us, shape and attempt to position our lived reality, and how we experience penetration and non-penetration into spaces, into comprehension, and into liberation. Where I leave off is where I began, grappling with my positionality and or the lack thereof.